कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी कुंज गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam. Canto 1, Chapter 10, Text 7. Nadhayo vyadaya klesha, Nadhayo vyadaya klesha, Deva bhutatma hetava. Oh, this is 6. Sorry, because this bookmarker, but text starts here. Sorry. Actually, text 6 is such a beautiful verse, but 7 is also good. Usitva Hastinapure,
Usitva Hastinapure,
Masan Katipayan Hari,
Masan Katipayan Hari,
Suhridam Cha Visokaya,
Sukradam Cha Vishokaya,
Swasyuscha Priya Kamyaya,
Swastuscha Priyakamyaya,
Usitva Hastinapure,
Usitva Hastinapure,
Masan Katipayan Hari,
Masan Katipayan Hari,
Suhridam Sa Vishokaya,
Sukradam Cha Vishokaya,
Swasyuscha Priya Kamyaya,
Swastuscha Priyakamyaya,
Usitva Hastinapure,
Usitva Hastinapure,
Masan Katipayan Hari,
Masan Katipayan Hari,
Suhridam Cha Vishokaya,
Sukradam Cha Vishokaya,
Swasyuscha Priya Kamyaya,
Swastuscha Priyakamyaya, Usitva Hastinapure,
Usitva Hastinapure,
Masan Katipayan Hari,
Masan Katipayan Hari,
Sukradam Cha Vishokaya,
Suhridam Cha Vishokaya,
Swastuscha Priyakamyaya,
Swasyuscha Priya Kamyaya, Usitva,
Usitva,
staying,
Hastinapure,
in the city of Hastinapur,
in the city of Hastinapura,
Masa,
Masan,
months, Katipaya,
Katipayan,
a few,
a few,
Lord Sri Krishna,
Hari,
Hari,
Lord Sri Krishna,
Lord Sri Krishna, Suhridam,
Suhridam,
relatives,
relatives,
Cha,
Cha,
also,
Vishokaya,
Vishokaya, for pacifying them,
for pacifying them,
Swasu,
Swasu,
the sister,
the sister,
Cha,
Cha,
and
and
Priyakamyaya,
Priyakamyaya,
for pleasing.
for pleasing.
Translation. Sri Hari, Lord Sri Krishna, resided at Hastinapur for a few months to pacify his relatives and please his own sister Subhadra. Jai Shri Shri Radha Kunja Bihari. So even that mic is not working, both this and okay. Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charana Vreminda Swami, Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna was to start for Dwaraka, his own kingdom, after the battle of Kurukshetra and Yudhishthir's being enthroned. But to oblige the request of Maharaj Yudhishthir and to show special mercy to Bhishma Dev, Lord Krishna stopped at Hastinapur, the capital of the Pandavas. The Lord decided to stay, especially to pacify the aggrieved king, as well as to please Subhadra, sister of Lord Sri Krishna. Subhadra was especially to be pacified because she lost her only son Abhimanyu, who was just married. The boy left his wife Uttara, mother of Maharaj Parikshit. The Lord is always pleased to satisfy His devotees in any capacity. Only His devotees can play the parts of His relatives. The Lord is absolute. Translation: Sri Hari, Lord Sri Krishna, resided at Hastinapur for a few months to pacify his relatives and please his own sister, Subhadra. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Satarine. Hare Krishna. We have discussed in previous classes about how conditioned living entities are influenced by the modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. In the scriptures, it is said, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabinoy Shravanadi Suddha Chitte Kare Udoy. That this potential to love Krishna in ecstatic prema, love, is already established in the hearts of all living entities, conditioned or otherwise, eternally. So then how is it possible that the living entity who has the potential to love Krishna, the personality of Godhead, has now fallen into such a pitiable condition, in full forgetfulness of Krishna, wandering from one life form to another? Krishna gives the answer to this question to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvaja ahamkara vimudatma kartaham niti manyate. It is because of ahamkar, false ego. Because the living entity under the influence of the false ego, begins to consider mistakenly that he is the doer. Krishna tells Arjuna, actuality, it is material nature who is doing everything. But because of false ego, the living conditioned soul, he thinks, I am doing this. We have seen this famous picture, there maybe in the Bhagavad Gita, I think there is one in the Bhagavad Gita, where, yes, just like a puppet on the stage, the puppet may think, I am dancing, but actually the strings are being pulled by someone else, the puppet master. In this way, the living entity, he is engaged in so many varieties of activities. He's thinking, I am doing this. Not knowing that just like the puppet is being controlled by the puppet master, the strings of material nature through the three modes are actually making us dance in so many different ways. So there are three modes, the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. One in the mode of goodness is said to be happy. They engage themselves in activities that are very pleasing, being kind to others, being charitable, engaging in some form of worship. Whereas one in the mode of passion, those in this mode are predominantly subject to stress and anxiety, because people in this mode of material nature, they are very interested in acquiring wealth, power, and influence. And so they work very hard for these things, and that naturally causes stress and anxiety. But those in the lowest form of material, the mode of material nature, the mode of ignorance, they engage in abominable activities. They consume intoxication, and they engage in sinful activities. This actually makes them angry and depressed. Those in the modes of material, those in the modes of ignorance actually experience depression and anger, and this causes them to be cruel to other living entities. But beyond all these three modes of material nature, there is another mode. Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita that those who have come to the platform of spiritual realization, they have transcended all the three modes of material nature and come to the platform of Suddha Sattva, pure goodness, which cannot be touched by any of the modes of material nature. It is to be understood that any conditioned living entity cannot exist in a single mode. The modes are not present in a living entity in just one form. It is usually a combination of two or more forms. So in the same person, we may find one may be engaged in pious activities, giving in charity, helping those in need. But the same person may also show a tendency to acquire wealth and power and influence. Similarly, one who may be in the mode of passion, we may say that person is also sometimes becoming very angry and depressed. So, what determines the character of or personality of a person? It is whatever is the predominant mode that's influencing him. So if a person is predominantly influenced by the mode of goodness, then he may show some signs of the other modes, but most of his activities will be in the mode of goodness. And sometimes we also have this experience. People who have been a particular thing in their life, after many years, they may be engaged in different activities. We have seen this so many times. With politicians and other people of importance, suddenly now we hear about these scandals and things that were not known about these people. Now they reveal this person may not appear to be who he was. Why is that? It is because these modes are material in nature. There is a tendency to degrade. Just as everything in this material world is subject to degradation. So similarly, one is in the mode of goodness. There is a very good likelihood that with the passage of time, that person may be more and more influenced by the next lower mode, which is the mode of passion. Similarly, if one is in the mode of passion, with the passage of time, there may be more and more the influence of the mode of ignorance on this person. Which is why it is very important to balance our lives with activities in a higher mode in order to prevent that degradation from happening. So if one is very attached to the acquisition of wealth, power, and influence, then such a person must engage in activities that are on the mode of goodness, so that he can save himself from slipping down into the lower modes. So such people should engage in regular charity, in pious activities, in doing good. So that way, they can ensure that their character, their personality doesn't degrade down into a lower mode. Similarly, people in the mode of goodness also should not think, because I'm engaged in such pleasing activities, everything will remain in such a way. It is only a question of time before the degradation occurs and they begin to be influenced more by the mode of passion. So such people, the advice is that they should engage in activities that are on a higher platform, which is the platform of Shuddha Sattva. So actually, the mode of goodness is meant for people to be able to launch themselves into the transcendental realm, the mode of Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. So my esteemed God brother, Radha Gopinath Prabhu in the Chowpatty temple, once many years ago, I was hearing a lecture and he gave a wonderful example. He compared the mode of goodness to a runway in the airport. So what is the runway meant for? It is meant to launch the plane into the air, take off. Yes? If the pilot decides, no, I'll just stay on the runway, and the purpose is defeated. The runway is not meant for the airplane to remain indefinitely. It is simply meant for a period of time to allow the plane to launch itself into the air. Similarly, the mode of goodness should be used for that purpose, to allow us to begin understanding the finer details of the purpose of everything. But if one decides, I will simply engage in pious activities all my life, then the purpose is defeated. He may achieve some benefit, but that is not the purpose, just as the purpose of a runway isn't for the plane to simply stay indefinitely, but to take off into the air. So those who are engaged in such activities should be very serious about inquiring, atato brahma jigyasa. What is the purpose of life? In the lower modes, people have no interest for such things, which is why it is very important to elevate oneself to a platform where we can start to inquire about these things. And that is why we see in the world today, most of the world's religions, the major religions of the world, they guide and influence their followers to create a platform where they can advance spiritually. Essentially, the world's major religions are attempting to bring people to this platform called the mode of goodness. But unfortunately, we see even spiritual leaders in the world today, they do not have much information beyond this. And therefore, like Srila Prabhupada says, the blind leading the blind. So if we wish to make significant spiritual advancement, we must come into the association and presence of those who are spiritually advanced. Otherwise, what will happen is such bigoted mentalities such as sectarianism will creep into even religious practices. That is why we see in the world today even religious leaders preaching actually what is sectarian philosophy. That if you do not adopt this path that we are giving you, then the result will be that you will go to eternal hell. That is the philosophy that is being preached. So if we were to believe one group of people that claims if you do not follow their practice and philosophy, then the other group is all going to hell, millions of them. But if you talk to people in that group, they say, this group's all going to hell. So now who's going to hell and who's going to heaven? This is sectarianism. Even religious leaders, without information to this higher principles, are preaching such kind of bigoted philosophies. My spiritual master, Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he wrote in the book, The Journey Home, about his experience with a saintly person in Allahabad when he was traveling looking for answers to the questions of life, looking for God. He traveled to many different places, and one place was Allahabad, where he met a devotee of Lord Ram. He was a businessman. He had a X-ray clinic called Magadha X-ray Clinic. So every day after business, he would pick up his copy of Ramayana and go to meet a friend of his. So one day he told Maharaj, come with me, you also join me. So Maharaj just started joining him. Every day he would go and meet this Muslim person who had with him a copy of the Quran. So Narayan Prasad would read from the Ramayana, and the Muslim man, he listened with rapt attention. And then the Muslim man, he would read from the Quran, and Narayan Prasad would listen very carefully. And then they would discuss from their own scriptures. And in this way, many days went by. Every evening this would happen. And Radhanath Maharaj, he noticed these people are actually enlivening each other, nourishing each other. There was no attempt by either of them to prove that his own scripture was right and the other was wrong. They were simply using their own scriptures to enlighten, nourish, and encourage each other to go deeper into this world of bhakti. Jai Shri Shri Radha Kunja Bihari, Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subramanian, Jai Shri Shri Gauranga. They were encouraging each other to go deeper and deeper into this understanding of God, the personality of Godhead. So this had been going on for a few days. And then one day, Radhanath Maharaj asked him, how is this possible? In a country where Muslims hate the Hindus hate the Muslims, they simply want to kill each other. Not only are the two of you best of friends, but you're using your own scriptures. Actually enrich the life of each other. How is that possible? And that man gave him an answer. Narayan Prasad gave him an answer that even decades later, my Guru Maharaj, he would narrate this times in classes. Narayan Prasad said to him, if a man has a dog, the dog recognizes this is my master. Now the master may be dressed very nicely in a three-piece suit and tie, and the dog recognizes this is my master. Now the master may just appear in front of his dog in just his pajamas. Dog still recognizes this is my master. The master may appear in his underwear or even completely naked before the dog. The dog still understands this is my master. In whatever form the master appears, the dog immediately recognizes this is my master. When our Lord and Master, He appears in different times to teach people in different way according to time, places and circumstances. If we cannot recognize our Master, then we have much to learn from a dog. Even a dog can recognize his master when he appears in different forms. But if we cannot, we have much to learn from a dog. So all this conflict is simply because of lack of understanding of who we really are and the essence of all religions. So the Bhagavad Gita and Shrimadbhagavatam teach us to see ourselves for who we really are. Cheto darpanam marjanam. So when the mirror of the mind is dirty, we cannot see clearly a reflection of who we are. But when through the practice of devotion, we cleanse that mirror, then we see who we really are. In today's verse or line from Srila Prabhupada in the calendar in the Pujari room. Srila Prabhupada is saying that activities on the platform of Krishna consciousness may appear material, but they're actually transcendental in nature. So these scriptures, they give us that deep understanding by which one can discern different things in this world. But in the absence of such knowledge, one cannot understand these subject matters. And ISKCON, a beautiful example is given, that of a lioness. A lioness may carry her cubs in her mouth. Now the same lioness, when she hunts and kills a deer, the same deer is once again in the mouth of the lioness. To a person who is in ignorance, it may seem like the same. But one who is in knowledge, he understands the deer is in the grasp of the jaws of death, whereas the cub is fully protected by his or her mother. So what appears to be material may not be material at all. So one who is sweeping the temple of the Lord, as I have seen you and Karuna Sindhu Prabhu do often, may seem like a very mundane material activity, just sweeping. But it is actually bhakti. It is transcendental because on the spiritual platform, there is no superior or inferior service. Everything is meant for only one thing, to please Guru and Krishna. But to a person who does not have this knowledge, he may consider this person as just sweeping, such a mundane activity. But it's actually, even though it is such a simple seva, it is very pleasing to Krishna because it is being performed on the spiritual platform for Krishna's pleasure. I have a friend, his name is Revati Nath. He used to live in the ashram. He lives in Indore, India, but he spends a lot of his time in Vrindavan. He would always talk about the modes of material nature. I never asked him why, but I observed every time we met, he would talk modes of material nature, goodness, passion, ignorance. I learned a lot about the modes of material nature from Revati Nath Prabhu. He would always talk. And I never understood why. But then one day I was hearing a lecture by my Guru Maharaj. In that he was explaining that he had a problem in his foot. So he went to see a physiotherapist, Madhava Prabhu. So Madhava Prabhu, he recommended some kind of treatment, not only for his foot, but for his spine as well. And Maharaj was saying, he explained, Madhava Prabhu explained to him how this problem in the foot was actually a manifestation of a problem that originated in the spine. Now, for someone who does not know better, he may have just recommended treating the foot. And the person may have received some kind of benefit. But then if the problem is in the spine, what will happen? In just a mere days or weeks, the problem will reappear. So Maharaj was explaining how, because he treated the root cause, which was in the spine, the problem in his foot was fixed. Of course, it is necessary to treat the symptoms, but it is very important to treat the root cause. So in both Bhagavad Gita as well as this section in Shrimadbhagavatam, which we will eventually get to in a few months or a few years' time, because it's in Canto 11, where Krishna is speaking to Uddhava. It's called the Uddhava Gita. So Canto 11 is still in Canto 1, so we'll probably get there in a few years' time. You'll see that in both the Bhagavad Gita and the Uddhava Gita, the Uddhava Gita, Lord Krishna, he is speaking to Uddhava, and Bhagavad Gita he is speaking to Arjuna. But in both places, the Lord is very carefully explaining in detail how the modes of material nature work. Because when we understand the root cause of everything in the world, then we can find the appropriate solution. Just like an expert doctor he does. Sometimes people, they suffer from boils on their skin. And the common response is to apply some kind of compress, warm compress or cold compress, to alleviate the symptoms. But these boils in the skin are caused by a disorder in the blood. So unless one addresses that disorder in the blood, these boils will just appear again and again and cause much pain. So, in a similar way, when we understand many of our activities are being influenced by activities in the modes of material nature, goodness, passion and ignorance, when we understand the root cause, then we can find an appropriate solution. By hearing regularly Harikatha. In fact, we will see in this very chapter, as I was waiting to give class, in just 2 or 3 verses later, we will see Shrimadbhagavatam says that those who are intelligent, they associate with pure devotees of Krishna. And by such association, even if they have only heard the glories of the Lord just once, they can never stop hearing about Him. So those who are associated with pure devotees of the Lord and engaged in seva and their association, even if they only hear once about the glories of the Lord, they develop a very strong desire to repeatedly hear about this personality and never stop hearing. So by constant hearing of Harikatha, Shrinvata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hriday Antakstohi Abhadrani Vidunoti Supritsata. So by constant hearing, all that is troublesome to the heart, all these contaminations in the consciousness are personally removed by the Lord Hari. So by hearing Harikatha, by serving in the association of devotees, by chanting the names of the Lord, by reading Shrimadbhagavatam, by honoring Prasadam, we can overcome the influence of the modes of nature and be situated on this transcendental platform called Suddha Sattva, pure goodness, where no degradation can occur. So one who is situated purely in the mode of goodness, pure goodness, Suddha Sattva, such a person will never fall down to the lower modes. Because the mode of pure goodness cannot be touched by the material modes of goodness, passion, or ignorance. So therefore, it is our great fortune that somehow or other, whether we deserved it or did not deserve it, we have come to this platform where we are able to hear and discuss such transcendental subject matters. And I mistakenly believed we were supposed to discuss text 6, so I read that. It is such a wonderful verse where it is said that Maharaj Yudhishthira did not have any enemies. Ajatashatru, what a wonderful state of existence in a world where everybody hates so many other people. Here was this one personality who did not have any enemies. How was that possible? Because he saw everyone, every living entity in relation to Krishna. Mamaivanso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. All living entities are my fragmented parts and parcels. So one who loves Krishna, he naturally loves all living entities because he sees all living entities as part and parcels of Krishna. And Yudhishthira Maharaj was a pure devotee of Krishna. He loved Krishna. Because of that, he loved all the citizens of his kingdom, which were not just the human species. Because he was such a great king, he considered every living entity in his kingdom to be his subjects. So when the world has leaders like this, then naturally there is all happiness and prosperity in this world. Towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita, as Krishna completed his narration of these transcendental subjects to Arjuna, Dhritarashtra, who was blind, he could not see. He was long distance away in his palace. But his chariot driver, Sanjaya, was bestowed this transcendental vision by which, just sitting in the palace with Maharaj Dhritarashtra, he could see and hear. He could hear and see what was happening on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And as things were unfolding, he was narrating these things to Maharaj Dhritarashtra. And Sanjaya declared, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara, Tatra Sri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvanitir Matir Mama. In my opinion, wherever there is the master of all mystics, Krishna, and the supreme archer, Arjuna, there will also be morality, power, and victory, and extraordinary power. So this is what happens when we come into the presence of devotees of Krishna and begin to engage in devotional service. All auspiciousness is acquired in our own lives. Otherwise, we become victims to such useless beliefs. One time I was stepping out of my home and I tripped. I may have mentioned this in previous classes or in conversations with devotees. I tripped. So my mother immediately called me back into the house and she said, sit for a few minutes and drink some water. So I did, because I didn't know better. But many years later, I came into contact with Vaishnavas, these great souls who engage themselves in the loving service of Krishna. And in their association, I learned so many things. The next time I tripped, My mother called me back into the house. She made me sit. And she had me drink some water. So I asked my mother, please explain why this is so. And she said, because you tripped, that is a sign of inauspiciousness. So wherever you're going and whatever task you are setting out to perform, it may not meet with success because you're beginning your trip in such an inauspicious way. So I asked very respectfully to my mother, that is all right. But how is this drinking of water going to bring auspiciousness to replace that inauspiciousness? Throughout my life, I have been drinking water. So if simply the mere act of sitting and drinking water brings auspiciousness, our house must be filled with auspiciousness. So why is tripping going to undo all that auspiciousness that we have brought into the house over so many years? And if you say there is no auspiciousness, then how is drinking of this water going to bring that auspiciousness? And there was no answer. So then I told my mother, the scriptures declare, Appavitra pavitro va sarva vastam gatopi va yasmare pundari kaksham sabhahya abhayantara suchi. Shrimadbhagavatam says there are 9 different processes to serve the Lord. Some of them require external effort, like chanting requires that we vibrate the tongue. And to engage in devotional seva, we must use our hands and legs, our limbs, our power of sight. But to remember the Lord, you don't even need to move a finger, as they say in the Western world. Without even moving a single muscle or a finger, you can remember just within your mind. How easy is that? No physical effort, zero physical effort. Such an effortless, simple solution, simply by remembering the Lord. Appavitra, pavitra. Whatever inauspiciousness there may be, it is vanquished and one becomes fully purified. So if we trip, you can go back inside your house and drink some water. It may quench your thirst, but it is not going to result in any auspiciousness. So if you trip, you simply chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You can do that at the very spot where you trip. You don't need to go back inside the house. And what is the other added benefit? If there is a squirrel who's running by looking for something to eat and he hears that chanting, now not only have you become benefited by the chanting, but the squirrel who heard that, he benefits as well. So not only are you bringing back auspiciousness into your own life, you're actually delivering auspiciousness to other living entities. That is why devotees go out chanting Harinam. Not only are other human beings who hear that chanting tumultuous kirtan, not only are they benefited, but the birds that are flying above some buildings, they hear this, they become benefited. The squirrels, they become benefited. Any other species of life that's in the vicinity of that kirtan, they become benefited. So many people benefit from the actions of a few. That is the power of devotional service. So it is our great good fortune that after so many lives, Amarendra Prabhu in his last class before he left from Michigan, he was saying that we have traveled from the womb of one mother to another mother, to another mother, and over again. Essentially just traveling from one womb to another, taking births in so many different life forms, so many times. But now Now somehow we have received this unimaginable mercy of Krishna in the form of devotional service. And he was saying that his Guru Maharaj, Radha Govind Maharaj, once he started Harikatha, he did not even like to receive the garland. Because Harikatha is so important. We have gone through so many millions and millions of lifetimes before getting this opportunity to hear Harikatha on a regular basis. How important is that? There should be no interruption. So he did not even like to receive a garland once Harikatha had started. If you wanted to present a garland, you did that before the class started. But Harikatha is so important. And Krishna is Bhavagrahi. So to the extent we value this Harikatha, to that extent, he will reciprocate. Ye yatamam prapadyante tansataiva bhajamya. If somebody is sitting in class because he's a brahmachari and the management expects him to, well, he will get a certain kind of benefit. But if he goes to class thinking, I have spent so many lifetimes transmigrating from one species to another, from the womb of one mother to another, now is an opportunity for me to hear and purify my consciousness and understand who I am in relation to the Lord. And he will receive significantly more mercy from Krishna. So he must be serious about these things. That's why when he was even giving class, he could not tolerate even little disturbance from some children in the audience. Amarendra Prabhu, he would say, please take care of this child. Because how long we have suffered so many different conditions of life. And now we're getting this opportunity to hear. We should eliminate any other distraction. Just hear Harikatha, because that will bring such incredible benefit into our lives. So I thank you, Ajay Prabhu, for encouraging me to give these Bhagavatam classes. And Nitya Krishna Prabhu, who originally requested me to speak at least once a week. It's not just the audience that is benefiting. The speaker is also benefiting just as much, because these are transcendental subject matters. So I'm grateful to you for kindly encouraging me to give these classes. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, or realizations you would like to share?
Thank you, Prabhu. Thanks for the class. It was nice discussing the material modes, how the influence of the material modes on the living entities, like how mode of goodness, passion, and impulse, and transcending all these modes to Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness, helps a living entity to get more connected to Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.